Hey Chaotic Crew, Brian here. I've got a fun new deck tag for you, and we are digging in to this Turtle Power Precon, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Magic the Gathering crossover. We're going to be giving a review of the Precon, taking out 15 cards, putting in 15 cards, and just letting you know how we pilot the deck here on the channel. Before I dive any deeper, though, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Mana Pool. It's a fast-growing marketplace for Magic the Gathering that makes buying and selling cards easy. Their optimizer helps you get the best value in buying cards, and the team is focused on making it a great experience for buyers and sellers alike. So if you're into the cards that we're going to be putting in here, make sure to check them out. Hey, do you want to win the Turtle Power Precon yourself? Well, if you're in the US, we're doing a Turtle Power Precon giveaway. Just make sure to comment on this video your favorite piece of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle media. Could be a video game that you really liked, one of the very many series that there are, right? Or one of the Michael Bay movies. Let me know what your favorite one is in the comment below. And what we're going to do is on March 13th, that's Friday, March 13th, we're going to be going live on our Twitch stream, twitch.tv/chaoticcommandermtg, 9:30 p.m. Central Time, and we're going to be announcing the winner. So make sure to comment on this video to get entered, and you get an extra entry by becoming a channel member. So make sure to like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel, and looking forward to seeing you when we announce the winner on March 13th. Now, what I'm going to do with this deck is something I haven't really done for most of our Precon guides, right? We're going to be taking out 15 cards of this deck, but we're also going to be adding in 15 cards from the main set. So we're keeping this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed as much as possible. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I think the main commander of this 5-color deck is going to be Leonardo the Balance. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Leonardo the Balance is a 4-mana, 3/3 Mutant Ninja Turtle. Whenever a token you control enters, you may put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. Then you can pay Wooburg for creatures you control, gain Menace, Trample, and Lifelink until end of turn. It also has partner character select, which means you can have 2 commanders if both had this ability. So fun thing about this deck is it comes with each of the turtles with the partner character select ability, as well as Splinter. So you have 5 potential, cards here you can put as your character select, but if you're using the 5-color, the whole Precon, you have to have Leonardo as one of them to keep those 5 colors. The alternate commander really is Heroes and a Half Shell. It is Wooburg for 5/5 Mutant Ninja Turtle, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Haste. Whenever one or more mutants, ninjas, and or turtles you control deal combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures and draw a card. So really strong here. You can really build a lot of different decks with this. You can go any of those kindreds, right, with the mutant ninjas or turtles, or you could go full on TMNT kindred, make everything, TMNT based and just do really great there. I think this deck does a great job of going in a few different directions, but also still kind of all tying to +1/+1 counters, right? Whether you're going with Leonardo as your main commander or as Heroes and a Half Shell, you care about these +1/+1 counters. And Heroes and a Half Shell cares more about creature types, whereas Leonardo the Balance cares about making tokens, any kind of tokens. So really neat there. And you don't have to have, any kind of creature typal synergy. You can just go bonkers there. Now, I think this deck, because it does include a lot of ninjas and a lot of mutants, I think the best commander for this deck specifically is going to be Heroes in the Half Shell. There are a lot of cards that make tokens, but I think for the most part, Heroes in a Half Shell is going to do so great because it's going to be letting us draw cards. So I think the stronger commander is this one. This is going to be what I'm building, basing the deck off of, and what I'm going to be upgrading, right? So moving forward, Donatello the Brains is a 3-mana 2/4. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a mutagen token are created instead. And if you don't know what a mutagen token is, we're going to just go down right here. Mutagen, you pay 1, tap it, sacrifice the token, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, only activate as a sorcery. So essentially, every time you're making any token, you're making that many +1 mutagen tokens. So pretty strong in a deck that cares about tokens. Splinter the Mentor is 2/2 for 2. Menace, whenever Splinter or another non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, create a
mutagen token. So really great here. Has Menace, so maybe great with those ninja kindred synergies. Raphael the Muscle, double all the damage that creatures you control with counters on them would deal, so who cares about counters? And when he enters, you make a mutagen token, so really strong there. I think maybe the strongest pairing with Leonardo is Raphael, right? You play Leonardo turn 3 or 4, then you play Raphael the turn after, you make a mutagen token, which then puts a +1/+1 counter on each of your creatures. They work really well together. Michelangelo the Heart, 2 mana for a 2/1 trample. At the beginning of your second main phase, if you attacked this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and create a food token. Michelangelo also really strong with Leonardo, who is going to be giving you tokens and putting counters on creatures, so pretty neat there. Both are strong. Now on to the rest of the deck, right? This is all brand new cards. April O'Neil live on the scene, 2 mana for a 2/1 human detective. Whenever a mutant ninja or turtle you control enters, investigate. And also has partner character select. So I even forgot about April O'Neil, but April can also be your partner and is pretty neat because you can have April on the battlefield, then play Leonardo. You make a clue token, which then triggers Leonardo to give all your creatures +1/+1 counters. So that's a really strong pairing too. I think Donatello is the weakest just because neither Leonardo or Donatello are creating any tokens in general. A Splinter as well. You have to do a little bit more setup to make those pairings work, but April O'Neil, pretty strong here. Baxter, Fly in the Ointment, 4 mana for a 2/2. Insect Mutant Scientist. Whenever Baxter enters or attacks, each creature you control with a counter on it gains flying until end of turn. So really great there. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Baxter. So Baxter works amazingly well with the Heroes in a Half Shell commander. Baxter is entering, giving your creatures flying, making your creatures less easy to block, right? And then whenever you draw a card, you're putting a +1/+1 counter on Baxter. Well, our commander draws us potentially 3 cards a turn, maybe more if we have like double strike or something, or first strike. But yeah, to really kind of hit the nail home, Baxter's really great here. Irma, Part-Time Mutant. Irma is a human mutant shapeshifter that is a 1/1 for 3 mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Irma becomes a copy of up to one other target creature you control, except her name is Irma, Part-Time Mutant, and she has this ability. Then put a +1/+1 counter on her. So yeah, Irma becomes a copy of that creature as long as you want her to be a copy of that creature. Really great there. And it's going past the legendary rule, and you're also putting counters on Irma. So does a really great job of making sure that we have really strong pieces on the board. Now, only 3 mana is great. Maybe you can play Irma, and then the next turn play your commander, and then have Irma become a copy of your commander to double those triggers, essentially, and go to town. So could be really great there. Krang the All-Powerful. I'm really excited about this card. 5 mana for an Utrom Robot, 3/3. If a player drawing a card causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And whenever a player draws their second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Krang. So I think this is a really cool commander in itself, but also strong here as you're drawing lots of cards each turn. Players want to draw lots of cards in commander in general, so going to be making Krang really, really strong and potentially helping out some of your other cards that care about card draw as well. Speaking of, Ray Fillet, I think, unless you're Gordon Ramsay, then it's Ray Fillet. Wave Warrior, 3 mana for a 0/2 Fish Mutant with Flying and Evolve. So when a creature you control enters, if it has greater power or toughness than Ray Fillet, then you're putting a +1/+1 counter on Ray. Whenever a creature you control with a counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So really good there to get you more card draw and buff himself up. Just really strong in general. Bebop, Skull and Crossbones. 2 mana for a 2/1 Boar Mutant. Partner with Rocksteady, Mutant Marauder. We'll get to that in a second. Death Touch, and whenever Bebop deals combat damage to a player, you may draw X cards, where X is the number of counters on Bebop. If you do, you lose X life. Don't think this is super necessary in a deck that's already drawing a decent amount of cards, but could be good early game, right? Or if you need that extra card draw, like you're searching for an answer, right? Could also be solid there. So 2 mana pretty early on. It'll get you Rocksteady Mutant Marauder. We'll go ahead and jump to him. 3 mana, 3/3, who also partners with Bebop, Skull and Crossbones. A little bit disappointed that they also aren't pirates, right? They are pirates in the artwork, so why aren't they pirates now? But I digress. has a trample, so 3/3 trample for 3. Whenever another non-token creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So it's really great. You can put a +1/+1 counter on himself, or you can, put +1/+1 counters on Bebop and fulfill that into the bargain as well. So really good partner commanders here in Bebop and Rocksteady, but they do pretty decently in this deck too, both being mutants. Dimension X Pizzasaur. 4 mana for an artifact creature, food alien mutant. When this creature enters, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. When you do, destroy up to 1 target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of counters among permanents you control. Then you can pay 2, tap it, sack this creature, you gain 3 life, and each opponent loses 3 life. So, this card is weird. I think it's too much. Too much for not enough value. Sure, you get 2 counters on a creature, and then maybe destroy up to 1 creature on the battlefield for 4 mana. That's okay. And then you can make each opponent lose 3 life for 2 more mana. Food alien mutant, sure, it's good in food decks. Maybe you put that there. I really wish this was a dinosaur. It'd be really cool if it was a dinosaur. And it's not. It's only a mutant food alien. So, I don't know. I don't love it here. It doesn't do enough, I think. It's very mana hungry, and this deck in general, as we're going to really talk about in the post review, is that it's very mana hungry, and another card that is like that probably going to be on the chopping block here. Rat King, Pale Piper, 4 mana for a 3/3 Rat Avatar. Menace, and whenever Rat King or another non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, you make a 1/1 black rat creature token. Then you can pay 2, sacrifice a token, and draw a card. So it works pretty well with the Leonardo commander, right? You're making all these tokens, and also cares about rats, so great in rat decks. But in this deck, where we care more about mutants and ninjas, I don't know, might be on the chopping block there as well. Shredder, Shadow Master, 5 mana for a 5/5 human ninja. Whenever Shredder attacks a player, for each other opponent, create a token that's a copy of Shredder, tapped and attacking that player. So it kind of has Myriad, except it isn't legendary, and you sacrifice those tokens at the end of combat instead of exiling them like you would with Myriad tokens. Whenever Shredder deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life, rounded up. Don't love that. I think you could have given it a different ability. That would have been, good. I think I don't love making people lose half their life rounded up, but it is a good card. Shredder is great, and doesn't have any keywords, so very easily chump blockable. So good card, and works well with the deck because it gives you more ninjas that are attacking more opponents, meaning potential to draw more cards. Casey Jones, Back Alley Brute, 4 mana for a 4/2 Human Berserker Menace. Whenever Casey Jones attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. And whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, Casey Jones deals that much damage to target opponent. Well, for a deck that cares about putting +1/+1 counters on things, this is a great way to burn your opponents out. So Casey Jones really strong in this deck. Electric Seaweed is 4 mana for a 0/4 with Defender and Haste. When it enters until end of turn, whenever another creature dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each non-wall creature. And then tap it, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. So, very weird card. I think this is more of a convoluted combo card, right? Doesn't really do a whole lot here for us. And I don't know, it's not really fitting the vibe of the deck in my opinion. But cool card. Tempestra, Dame of Games, is a 2 mana 1/3 Elemental Illusion. Pay 3 mana, tap Tempestra, and you sacrifice an artifact. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it isn't legendary. It gains haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So pretty interesting card here. Making copies of your creatures that aren't legendary is always great. Sacrificing an artifact works really well in this deck that makes a lot of mutagen, clues, foods, etc. So pretty neat there. Taka and Razar, unsupervised, 3 mana for a 3/3 first strike. Whenever another non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Taka and Razar and create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So pretty cool here. It's kind of semi-ramp in the deck, especially if opponents are going to remove some things or board wipe. You'll get 1 treasure, not terrible, not great, but in the deck that needs as much mana as it can get, not bad either. Leatherhead Iron Gator is a pretty great card here. 7 mana for a 5/5, trample and haste. Crocodile Mutant Rogue. And whenever the other hand attacks, you put 2+1/+1 counters in each creature you control. So eventually, the first turn it's out, she will put 2+1/+1 counters on herself, make herself a 7/7 with trample. So really strong there, and in a deck that cares about +1/+1 counters, a fantastic ad. We already talked about Rocksteady, so moving on to Big Mother Mouser. 4 mana for an artifact creature robot, enters with 2+1/+1 counters, but when it attacks, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies, you make another number of 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on Big Mother Mouser. So great in the part of this deck that cares about artifact tokens, but it also starts out caring about the +1/+1 counters, and so it's just really strong to have in the deck. Roadkill Rodney, 2 mana for 2/1 with Squad, and also Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you make a mutagen token. So again, caring about that mutagen tokens, Roadkill Rodney is pretty neat there. Biogenic Ooze is a fun ad, right? When it enters, you make a 2/2 Ooze. That instant you put a +1/+1 counter on each ooze, and then you can make more oozes with it. So a fun card to the deck, a very flavorful ad, but as far as synergy goes, not really the best. Stillbane Hydra is pretty cool as slash clone, right? Turtle Hydra enters with X +1/+1 counter, so it's a turtle, so our commander cares about it. Paying 3 to remove a +1/+1 counter from it to destroy an artifact or enchantment, sign me up, right? You can just pay this mana, 3 mana for this card, and eventually get to the point where, you can keep adding counters. So really nice. Vigor, Herald of the Shredder, right? If damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each damage prevented this way. When Heralds of the Shredder is put into the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it to its owner's library. And it's a 6/6 for trample with 6. It's a neat little, flavor ad, right, to have this. I love that they included some cards that aren't really, they didn't want to make a new card for it, but having them be a reprint is pretty nice. Voracious Hydra as Aggro Amalgam, right? Just a Hydra for X, green, trample, enters with X +1/+1 counters. When it enters, you can either double the number of 1/1 counters on Voracious Hydra or have it fight target creature you don't control. So it's kind of removal. You're typically going to be doing the fighting, right? Corpsejack Menace as Humongous Fungus, right? 4 mana for 4, essentially doubles the number of counters you put on your creatures. Really strong there. Lita, Little Orphan Amphibian, is 2 mana 2/1. Whenever another creature you control enters, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on Lita, create a food token, and scry 1. This kind of reminds me of a white Gala Greeters. Gala Greeters is great, and Lita is fantastic because it gives you the +1/+1 counters when you care about that. It gives you the food tokens when you care about those tokens, and also scries 1 when you don't really have anything else to do. So a really strong card there, and I think Lita is really good for the deck. Mona Lisa, Science Geek, is a lizard mutant for 3 mana, 1/3 with reach. Add X mana of any one color, where X is Mona Lisa's power. Now, in a deck that wants you to deal damage to get the counters, this isn't the best. That being said, Mona Lisa is a mana dork that taps for mana of any color, right? And there are cards that will add counters to other creatures, so could potentially be 2 or 3 mana, and that's not bad. Acidic Slime is pretty neat there. Marauding Mutagen, and it's just an ooze with Death Touch. When it enters, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. So good removal on a body, and flavorful in the deck as well. Moving on to instants. We got 6 instants. Continue. Very busted card here. 2 mana. Choose up to 4 target creature cards in your graveyard that are put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield. So absolutely crazy. Crazy card. Really strong in any deck, especially like a sacrifice deck where you can maybe utilize it in a couple different situations, but this just gets you right back from a board wipe, and is, less angry to deal with than maybe Teferi's Protection, but still really strong. Swift Demise is interesting. 3 mana for an instant, deals 1 damage to target creature, then destroy each creature you don't control that was dealt damage this turn. So, I thought this card was really bad at first because it's 3 mana, destroy a creature, sure, but this could be done after someone's combat. Maybe they've attacked some of your opponents, and your opponents are blocked with some strong creatures. Who knows, right? You don't know what has happened on the battlefield, so you'll probably get 2 or 3 creatures after you attack, right? Maybe you're attacking with really low power creatures, and you know that they're going to block because you don't want them. They don't want you to draw cards. Excuse me. So Swift Demise could kind of come in and maybe help clean up what you need to be cleaned up. Shell Shock is X and a red for an instant. Each opponent choose up to 1 target creature that player controls. Shell Shock deals X damage to each of those creatures. You create a mutagen token for each creature dealt damage this way. So really minimum to do anything is putting 1 mana in the X to make it a 2 mana spell. Deal 1 damage to 3 creatures and make 3 mutagen tokens. So if you care about the mutagen tokens, this is a pretty decent card. You get a great rate. And the problem is you can maybe kill one thing with 1 damage. Or if you bump it up to 2 damage, you're still only getting 3 mutagen tokens, right? So the more mana you pump into this, you can kill bigger things, but you're getting the same amount of mutagens. So something to think about. Special move, 3 mana for an instant, choose 2. You can destroy target artifact, put 2+1/+1 counters and target attacking or blocking creature you control. Or we can make target creature we control deal damage equal to its power to any other target, then sacrifice it. So removal in a pinch, but mainly going to be destroying an artifact or getting counters on your creatures. So pretty neat. Double Jump and Flying Kick is a new fuse spell. Double Jump is 1 in the blue. Put a flying counter on target creature you control. Until end of turn, it has base power and toughness 5/5. And then Flying Kick is target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. And that's for 1 and a red. And Fuse means you can cast both of these. So for 4 mana, you get something, maybe get up to a 5/5, and then it can deal damage equal to its power to another creature. So that's also removal. So pretty good there. Assassin's Trophy, a fantastic removal spell, and love having that here. Moving on to enchantments, we got some strong ones. Endless Foot Assault is one of the best new cards for any ninja deck. 3 mana for an enchantment that has Squad. You can pay extra 2 mana any amount of times and make that many copies of this card. Whenever you attack for each opponent, you make a 1/1 black ninja that's tapped and attacking that player. So really fantastic for our commander who cares about dealing damage with ninjas to different players. And it also creates 1/1 black ninjas that maybe your opponents don't have enough creatures to block those ninjas, and so you can use those ninjas to ninjutsu out or sneak out some of your new ninjas. Next is High Score, 2 and a green for an enchantment that essentially gives you an additional +1/+1 counter when you ever put any on the creatures you have, and then at the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power. Just a nice little way to put more +1/+1 counters in your cards and draw cards. Level Up is an aura. You enchant a creature and it puts a +1/+1 counter on that enchanted creature when it enters. And then enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Then if it had power 10 or greater, you draw a card. So really neat there in a deck that cares about +1/+1 counters. Just getting to double them for free by attacking is wild. Ninja Pizza, 3 mana for an enchantment that makes foods you control tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. So it kind of turns them into treasures. Then beginning of your second main phase, you make a food token. So it's giving you a food each turn, a treasure each turn, but it's just really strong. Together Forever is 2 white. When it enters, you support 2, so you put +1/+1 counter in each of up to 2 creatures. Then you can pay 1 mana, choose a creature with a counter on it. When it dies this turn, you return it to its owner's hand. So really great here in a deck that has a lot of creatures, that cares about being able to replay those creatures, so that's a good way to get them back when they die. 10 sorceries. Here comes a new hero. X, 2 and a blue. Target player draws X cards. Top probably going to be us. Create a token that's a copy of up to 1 target creature with mana value X or less. So don't love this card. Doesn't get past the legend rule. Most of the cards in this deck that are creatures are legends. So really, you're copying an opponent's creature with this, and you're maybe drawing a few cards. The problem is, most creatures of value on your opponent's side, maybe there's a really good 3-drop you want or a 2-drop, but most of the time it's going to be 4 or 5 drops. So you're paying 7 or 8 mana for this card to draw 4 cards. Like, we don't really care as much about the drawing 4 cards, right? As you do about the taking control or getting a copy of something. So I just think it's too much investment here. But if this would be great in a deck that maybe cares about X spells or can reduce significantly the cost of sorcery spells. Game Over is a fun new board wipe. It costs 2 less if a player's life total is less than or equal to half their starting life total. So could be us, could be an opponent, and destroys all creatures. So yeah, potentially destroying all creatures for 3 mana is really solid. Fast Forward is fun, 5 mana, goads all creatures your opponents control, but it costs 1 less to cast for each opponent you've attacked this turn. So potentially 2 mana, right? But more than likely going to be 3 or 4 mana if you're casting this, and otherwise it's win more, right? It doesn't have to be win more, right? You can cast it for 5 mana, but it's only going to be discounted if you're doing well. Super combo, 2 mana, replicate 2, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature your opponent controls. So you can, pay 4 or 6 mana into it and do it, 3 times or 2 times. Vanquish the Horde, another good board wipe. Wave Goodbye is interesting. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to its owner's hand. So honestly, it works great with both of our commanders, but there's a lot of creatures with counters on them nowadays, so not going to do the whole board, unfortunately. Blasphemous Act is also... This deck has a lot of board wipes, I'm noticing. Blasphemous Act does 13 damage to each creature, but if all of our creatures have more than 13 power, probably not going to happen, but if it does, then our board won't get wiped. Lessons from Life is interesting. 4 mana to draw 3 cards. You may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield tapped. So pretty neat there to get an extra land drop. We also have Cultivate as some ramp there. Harmonize to draw 3 cards. And then moving to artifacts. Foot Choppers, 2 mana artifact equipment. When it enters, you make a 1/1 black ninja, then attach this equipment to it. Equipped creature has flying. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, draw cards equal to its power. So this could be good if you're like mana screwed early on, but you have this in your starting hand. Maybe you decide to keep your hand to potentially draw into more lands. Also gives whatever creature flying, so makes it easier to get in damage, right, for our commander that cares about that. But also, it is a ninja that itself is dealing damage, so already drawing cards with it and giving it +1/+1 counters. This feeds more into that, and you can draw more cards with it if you want to, but you really don't need to. Arcade Cabinet enters and puts a +1/+1 counter on each up to 4 target creatures, and then you can pay 2, sacrifice a token, and tap this to double the number of counters on target creature. So pretty neat there. Coin of Mastery is a 4 mana, artifact. Each creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each mana from an artifact source spent to cast it, which includes treasures, but also includes the foods from Ninja Pizza. Good to note that. But it also, tap it to make a treasure. So that's really neat that you can do that each turn. Exploding Barrel, 3 mana for a artifact that adds 1 mana of any color when you tap it, and you put a pressure counter on it. Then you pay 8, tap, sacrifice the artifact, deals 20 damage to target creature, but it costs 1 less to activate for each pressure counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. So good removal, but it's mainly going to be a mana rock. Mole Module is a fun new vehicle, 5 mana, 6/6, Menace. Whenever this vehicle deals combat damage to a player, you mill 4 cards, you may put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield. So really neat there. Surprisingly, it doesn't have Trample, being a massive drill, right? You'd think maybe it would, but Menace is all it needs, apparently. But really strong card. Don't know if it really fits this deck that well, but good in a lot of different decks. Chromatic Lantern is fantastic. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, those are great. Everything Pizza is a new card. 2 mana for a food artifact. When it enters, you search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Then you pay 7 mana and tap it, sacrifice the artifact. Target player gains 2 life and draws a card. Each of your opponents discards a card. Artifact deals 3 damage to any target, and you put 3 counters on up to 1 target creature. So it does a lot, but it's a lot of mana to do it. It's mainly playing this to get your, stuff. Playing this to fix a land maybe into your hand. Not amazing. All right, and then 39 lands, which is a big amount, right? Let's talk about some of the new lands. Big Apple, 3 AM. This land enters tapped. You choose a color when it does, and you can tap to add a mana of the chosen color, or you can pay 5 and tap it, so essentially 6 mana, to make 1/1 black rat token for each opponent. So could be really good in token decks, and pretty neat for that, right? If you care about tokens or rats. Hidden Hideout is a new card as well. Enters tapped, but it's like Command Tower. And then also has an additional ability to pay 2 and tap it. Target creature you control with a counter on it gains a lifelink until end of turn. So any commander deck that cares about counters at all, no matter what they are, Hidden Hideout is a new must-add. And then the last new land, brand new land in the deck, Turtle Lair. It is taps for a colorless. It taps for a colorless, or you can tap to add a mana of any color for ninja or turtle spells. And then you can pay 3 tap it to make target ninja or turtle unblockable this turn. So really, really good in a deck that cares about dealing damage, or any kind of ninja deck, or any kind of turtle deck. Both, really care about that. Now, that being said, it does not pay for ninjutsu costs, which, not great if you're going full on ninjas, but when you're casting the spells, it's not bad at all. Okay, so we talked about all the new cards. All right, it's a brand new deck, so there's a lot of them. This deck really excels at making tokens, putting +1/+1 counters on your creatures. That's really what it cares about. Heroes on a Half Shell does a great job of drawing you cards. If you're not using Heroes on a Half Shell, you might want to go with April O'Neil to get those investigate clues to help draw cards if you need to, right? There's a few other card draw engines in here, so you don't need Heroes on a Half Shell as your commander, but I think it's the strongest. This deck really, though, struggles because it has so much mana you need to pour into it, and there's not much ramp at all. We have Cultivate, we have Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, and we have Ninja Pizza, and that's about it, right? I wouldn't really count Taka and Razar as ramp, right? Maybe occasionally you're getting a treasure off of them, but you're not getting one each turn. And then we have the Exploding Barrel and Coin of Mastery, which are mana rocks too, right? But Coin of Mastery is expensive for a mana rock, and then Exploding Barrel, you might even be getting rid of it. So this deck is really mana hungry and doesn't have a lot of ramp. So something I would recommend you do is to add a bunch of ramp. We're replacing the 15 cards we're taking out with 15 cards from the main set, right? Now, we want to make sure we keep this deck turtle themed and only add in cards from the main set. We need to make sure that we're utilizing every ramp piece that we can, because this deck definitely needs it. All right, let's move on to the cards we're taking out. So taking out 15 cards here. First, I've got April O'Neil live on the scene, with our commander being the commander that cares more about dealing combat damage rather than tokens. I think April O'Neil doesn't fit the bill, right? You can investigate when creatures enter, but it doesn't do a whole lot otherwise. She just makes tokens. Because we don't care about that as much in the deck, I think it was good to take her out. She's not a mutant or a ninja or a turtle, but cares about them, so could be good in other decks, but in this deck, I took her out. Biogenic Ooze, we also talked about, was a flavor add in the deck, right? You can definitely keep it in if you want to, but not the best, right? It doesn't really do what we want. Sure, it puts +1/+1 counters on oozes that you have, but your commander doesn't care about oozes, and yeah, I don't know. It's not great at all. Casey Jones, Back Alley Brute, again, not being a mutant, a ninja, or a turtle. Now, it does put +1/+1 counters on your creatures, so you could definitely add this back in, but we're also not really burning our opponents out, right? Casey Jones cares about putting counters on stuff and burning opponents, so not really something that we need to do right now. Dimension X Pizzasaur, like I mentioned, is too much mana for not enough. Sure, it gives one of our creatures +1/+1 counters and maybe destroys an opponent's creature, but it's kind of a win more card for me, right? It doesn't really do a whole lot by itself. Electric Seaweed doesn't really make sense to me why this is in this deck. It doesn't care about counters, it doesn't care about tokens, and the ability is just a weird wording for me, so it's hard for me to understand why it cares about creatures dying and trying to deal damage to other non-wall creatures. Maybe it's just a board wipe in a creature, who knows, but yeah, I think this deck has enough board wipes. Crane the All-Powerful, love this card, but again, not a mutant, a ninja, or a turtle, which are the types that we care about in this commander deck. Plus, we don't really have, cards in our deck that care about drawing a card, right? We have a lot of effects that, if this happens, draw a card, but we don't have many effects that, hey, if you draw a card, something happens. Krang is really the only one, so it's really only there for itself, so 5 mana for just helping itself is not really that great. It's just going to be a 5 mana big body, and we're already going to have big bodies, so we don't need anything for 5 mana. Rat King Pale Piper, also taking out. It's not a mutant, ninja, or turtle, and it only really cares about rats. Technically, it helps with the token strategy, but don't really need it in here. Roadkill Rodney also really only cares about mutagen tokens. It can make itself a token with squad, and it has Death Touch, which is nice, but it's only a robot, so even though it's unlikely to get blocked by your opponent's big creatures, it's not going to benefit us when it does damage really that much. And then we're taking out Voracious Hydra, right? It's against a Hydra, it doesn't really do a whole lot. It enters with counters, maybe it fights a creature, but it doesn't fit the strategy of what we're trying to do. Harmonize is, 4 mana to draw 3 cards. Our commander's already drawing us 1 to 3 cards every turn it's out, right? So I'd rather play that for 5 mana a turn later than, Harmonize. I don't know. There's a lot of other card draw engines in the deck, so we really don't need this one that draws us 3 cards. Here comes a new hero we talked about. Way too much mana for not enough investment. It's really relying on what your opponents have on the board on any given instant. And sure, your opponents are going to be playing good cards because they want to win as well, but you're putting so much mana into this, and it's just not worth it. Shell Shock, again, we don't really care much about the tokens, and putting too much mana into the spell to even kill the creatures. So you're probably going to be paying 5 mana for this, 4 mana for this at minimum to get rid of some actual impactful creatures on the board. It's going to be too much for that. We don't really care about the mutagen tokens. Everything Pizza, we don't need that land coming to our hand, and the secondary ability just costs way too much mana in a deck that already is mana hungry. We're not going to have that, and because we're drawing cards, we don't need this in the deck anyways. Mole Module is a good card, right? But we're taking out because we don't want to mill our cards. Sure, we get a free permanent card, but that's only if Mole Module deals damage, and guess what? It only has Menace. By the time you get this out, your opponents are going to have some things to block this. Very rarely are they going to have something, especially because they know you're going to want to mill 4 cards. You really need to build around this more if you're going to use this well. And then we took out one of the 39 lands to make it 38. I think 38 lands in a deck that is so mana hungry is solid, right? Typically I'll go like 36. But this deck really doesn't have much ramp. We want to be playing a land on each of our turns, so 38 is pretty solid. Now, the 15 cards we're adding in, also, like I said, from the main set. So a lot of turtles. We're going to start with Dawn and Wrath, Hard Science. 3 mana for a 2/4 with Menace. Mutant Ninja Turtle, whenever Dawn and Wrath attack, the next non-creature spell you cast this turn has affinity for artifacts. So we are creating a handful of artifacts. There are a lot of cards here that do that really well in the deck. So it's not always going to make your next spell cost maybe like 7 less to cast, but it'll help it cost, 2, 3 less, maybe even 1 is helpful, right? So really strong here in the deck, and obviously having Menace helps it get past for our commander's ability. Genghis Frog is also a fun card. 2 mana for a 1/3 trample, and when Genghis Frog or another mutant you control enters, you make a mutagen token. So again, honestly, it's just like the April O'Neil making his mutagen tokens, but itself is a mutant and it also has trample. So we care about it dealing damage. It gets in easier because it has trample. It just fits in a lot better with the deck itself than April O'Neil. Karai, Future of the Foot, or Karai, I don't know how it's pronounced. Don't know this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle media, but whenever Karai deals combat damage to a player, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. For sneak cost was paid this turn, instead of return that card to the battlefield. So a great way to get our creatures out from the graveyard onto the battlefield or into our hand. And is like ninjutsu, but it actually casts the spell, which is great. And yeah, just really strong card here. Leatherhead Swamp Stalker, 4 mana for a 5/4, trample. Leatherhead enters with a hexproof counter on her, which is great. And then whenever Leatherhead deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a counter from her, right? So you can trigger the abilities with Heroes in a Half Shell and Leatherhead to make it so that you get the counter from Heroes in a Half Shell first, and then you can remove a counter from Leatherhead to remove the +1/+1 counter rather than the hexproof counter. And when you do remove that, you destroy an artifact or enchantment. So this is just another great way to remove stuff from your opponent's decks, from your opponent's fields. Michelangelo Improviser is really great. It's a 4 mana card, but it also can sneak for 4 mana. Whenever Michelangelo deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card and or a land card from your hand on the battlefield. So Michelangelo can ramp us or get a big creature out instead. So both really strong in a decks that don't have great ramp options, or decks that have big creatures, which this deck kind of has a little bit of both. Michelangelo, weirdness to 11, 2 mana for a 1/1. When he enters, you make a mutagen token, so already making a token that we kind of care about in the deck. It's kind of a sub-theme for us. And then if one or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. So really fantastic here to give us a ton of +1/+1 counters on our creatures, helping our mutagen tokens give more counters as well, which is really strong altogether. Raphael, the Night Watcher, is also a great card to add here. Attacking creatures we control have double strike, so giving all of our creatures double strike is essentially going to double the trigger of our Heroes in a Half Shell. They're going to deal damage for each player. They'll get a +1/+1 counter and draw a card, and then they're going to deal damage again and do the same thing again. So really, really good there, and fantastic in the deck itself. Raph and Leo, sibling rivals. A lot of Raphael that we're adding here, and Michelangelo, I guess. But Raph and Leo, sibling rivals, is great. Whenever they attack, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap 1 or 2 target attacking creatures. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So really fantastic again to get more card draw, to get more counters on our stuff, which is really fantastic. Splinter, Radical Rat, is also a fantastic add from the set, doubling the triggers of our ninja abilities, which includes our commander, right, to double that. And then also we can pay 2 mana to make a ninja not be blocked, which again, we care about our ninjas dealing damage. So Heroes in a Half Shell really loves these 2 cards. Super Shredder is also great because it, is a 2 mana 1/1 menace. And whenever another permanent leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Super Shredder. Well, guess what? Menace helps it get through to your opponents, but also we have a lot of mutagen tokens running around, right? Or treasures, or foods, or whatever. And so Super Shredder, whenever that happens for you, or whenever an opponent sacrifices a treasure, or they sacrifice whatever, right? Or they maybe are playing a creature sacrifice deck, Super Shredder is just going to be so big and so strong, and only going to continue to get big and strong with Heroes in a Half Shell. Last creature we're adding is Transdimensional Bovine. It's not a nerdle, it's not a ninja, turtle, or mutant, but it is a creature that adds 2 mana of any one color. So just really good in the deck that cares about using so much mana, can help get some of the stuff out quicker in this deck. Keeping it on theme. Hard One Jeet is 2 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature has double strike, and then you equip 2. So pretty simple there, right? Just giving one of our creatures double strike, making it that much better with our commander. Turtle Van is interesting. I added that because it cares about +1/+1 counters, right? Whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature that crewed it. Then if that creature is a mutant, ninja, or turtle, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So my thought is, right, this is 3 mana. It's early game card you can put down. You play this down, then maybe turn 4, you play another creature, right? Let's say turn 4, you play the Michelangelo Improviser. You crew Turtle Van, you attack with Turtle Van, then you put a +1/+1 counter on Michelangelo, then you you double the counter. So Michelangelo now is a 6/6. And then the next turn Michelangelo can attack, right? So not a lot of haste givers in the deck, so Turtle Van actually makes it so that when your creatures do untap and they can't attack, they're pretty strong. They got 2 more +1/+1 counters on them. It's not a mutant, a ninja, or a turtle, but it actually does help a lot in that strategy, right? And then Weathermaker is a great mana rock from the main set. Whenever a land you control enters, you put a charge counter on this artifact. Now, without the charge counters at all, it's just a 3 mana tap, add 1 mana of any color. But you can also tap, remove 2 charge counters to add 2 colorless, and you can tap, remove 3 charge counters from this artifact. It deals 3 damage to any target. So really strong here to ramp out. We need every single main set piece of ramp that we can get, and this is one of them. Last but not least, Leader's Talent is what we're adding to the deck as well. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on attacking creature. So it cares about that. And then the second level with 3 mana, when a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had a counter on it, you gain 2 life. Okay, some incidental life gains, good in every deck. Then 4 more mana for level 3. Whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So this is pretty solid. I think early on, this is helping you get your smaller creatures powered up so that your opponents are less likely to block them or make a more difficult decision blocking, right? And then later on, it helps against board wipes, and it also, makes it so that way late game, you can end the game out quicker. So pretty neat here. I like all these ads, right? We're trying to keep it in the set, and I think all of these do a great job. We're adding only a couple really of ramp pieces. If you want to count Michelangelo as like semi-ramp, go for it. But for the most part, this deck still struggles. It's still slow, which is good because, you know, you'd probably want this to be more of a casual deck, right? If you're playing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you might want to make it more casual, but honestly, really strong overall. This is going to be a really fun deck. You can take it in a lot of different directions. So the cards that I'm adding in, if you're taking it in the token direction, or you're taking it in a mutant direction, or a turtle direction, you may add different things than I added, and that's great. Don't forget that if you want your own Turtle Power Precon, go ahead and comment in the comments below your favorite piece of TMNT media. It could be that Nickelodeon show from like 2013, like that was a big one for me. I love that one. It could be one of the video games that came out. Maybe it was on the SNES, or maybe you loved one of the more recent ones. There's a lot of things to choose from, and just let me know in the comment below that gives you an entry into our Precon giveaway. And then on Friday, March 13th, we are going to be announcing it live on Twitch, twitch.tv/chaoticcommandernmtg. That's 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be announcing the winner. Now, the winner has to be US only, but make sure to check us out then. Until then, I'm going to keep doing some TMNT deck tech, so make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future deck techs or Precon giveaways, and we will go from there. But otherwise, have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.